Today, we're going to run through how to navigate a property that you manage being sold and the best approach to do that through the managed system. Now, of course, there are many variations to a property being sold. That is an investment. It could be that an owner-occupier is moving in, so you would just follow that in accordance to their requests, maybe their termination date or whatnot. But if specifically the property has been sold and the new owner is retaining that investment and is also going to continue using your service as a property manager, I'm going to run through the best way that you can do that through the managed system. So firstly, what you will need to have set in stone is that settlement date. So choosing the actual active property first, the one that the owner has sold and you have that active tenancy, you're going to choose that property in the system. What you're going to do is you're going to jump over to your lease tab and then you're going to add in a termination date. So the termination date that you're going to add in the system is going to be the same date that the property is settling. So hypothetically for my one, it's going to settle on the 20th of May. And my reason for that termination is the sale of the property. What the system is going to recognize is if the tenant is on direct debit, for example, it's going to be like, okay, well, I need to stop debiting any money from this tenant to go to my owner. It's also going to stop any payments that the tenant may pay in excess to going to this owner or current owner once they are not an owner anymore. Obviously, we want to avoid money going to them. So once you've added in a termination date, keeping in mind, settlement dates may change, but just updating that accordingly. If there are any instances that the tenant has overpaid and the settlement date is earlier and their pay to date is maybe a month in advance, that's where you contact the solicitors and let them know to make that adjustment accordingly on settlement. But as soon as you have that settlement day, scheduling it into the system. Once you have done that, you're going to need to set up a brand new property profile for that new owner. So even though I still have 210 Gabby's House Barbie World active for my owner, Gabby, my next owner needs a separate property profile. So you're just going to add in a new property with the same property details. Once you have done that, entering in that new owner and and all of their information accordingly. Coming to the lease tab, this is where you specifically add in that existing tenant. So you can bring all their data over, the same lease date, the same start date. The only thing that will change is the pay to date. So when you're going through and adding in the start date, which could be exactly like the information provided on the previous property, copy everything across. The only thing that is going to change is that start of payment. Now, the reason being is because you have terminated that tenant's date or their tenant's payments, hypothetically on the other one, as of the 20th of April, or 20th of May. Then you want to make sure that you continue the payments in the same alignment of when they were paid. So they were paid up until the 20th. You want to make sure that the system starts collecting rent again as of the 21st. Now, it may throw out their pay date, but that is, again, just an open conversation that you will need to have with your tenants, letting them know how the process works. Keep in mind, if the tenant pays their rent up until the 20th and they pay anything in excess, it's going to stay in their tenancy wallet anyway. So as soon as you set up their start of pay date, for example, this one, the 21st, once the property has settled, you've brought across all of the existing documents like the lease agreement, the ingoing, everything like that. You can then activate the tenancy profile just like you would when you enter a tenant in the first time. Of course, noting that you may have to delete any of those additional fees that come up, but making sure that when you add that new tenant in, you activate them. That will now allow any money moving forward going to the new owner rather than the old owner. So the process, again, as a recap, is adding a termination date in the system to the first owner in accordance with the settlement date. Once you have done that, you're going to add in a new property with the new owner if they've agreed to sign up with your agency, entering in all of those new owner details. Once that has been done, transfer all of the tenant data. So just opening up one tab, having the other tab open, copying the lease date, frequency, payments, and date, all of that jazz. The only thing that is going to change is that pay start date. So changing that from the end of the last date to the second day of the next one. Once settlement has been completed and you're able to collect money now for the new owner, that's when you're going to go into their new profile, select activate on that tenancy, and it will start collecting funds. The tenant logs in the same, nothing really changes on their end besides the fact that they will have a new owner. It will also be the same BSB and account details that they pay to as well. So there's not much of a change on the tenant's end. Again, maybe just more of a conversation letting them know why you are doing the things you're doing and maybe why it shows that they have that termination date in their lease profile. A good little tip you might get to do is just drafting up a template or a standard email on the process of what happens when a property is sold between an investor and investor and they continue on, or it might just be a phone call. But hopefully that helps. If you've got obviously any questions moving forward, you can book in a training session with our team at Managed.